The tree just needs a sip of water. That's all he needs. Nothing more. Definitely doesn't need to zombify creatures and humans, hijacking their brains and bodies before dooming them to die, right? This is your spoiler warning because we're going through all the details of The Tree. The Tree is a short point-and-click game created by Krisitina S. It can be completed in under 10 minutes, and it combines quaint but eerie and uncanny illustrations with a creepy concept that really gets under your skin. You play as a humanoid tree that's solely driven to get a drink of water. Hidden within a forest, it seems the closest water source is on the other side of the cottage that stands before him, and he'll do anything to quench his thirst. The door to the cottage is locked, but that won't stop him. He seems to infect a nearby shrew, much like the cordyceps fungi hijacks the bodies and minds of ants. This causes branches to grow out of the shrew's head. The tree then loses consciousness, using its energy to control and manipulate the shrew's body through a hole in the wall. Inside is a picture frame with a photo of Millie, the inhabitant of this cottage, and her mother who lives elsewhere. Neither are smiling in the photo as the mother places her hand on Millie from a distance. The frame is also cracked with vines growing over it, indicating that it may have been dropped or thrown, then left discarded and forgotten over time. As the shrew enters the house, there is an empty bird cage, a giant isopod, and a photo of Millie and her strange pet hanging on the wall. She looks older and happier in this picture, closely embracing the crustacean. The shrew climbs over a stack of books and unlocks the door for the tree before succumbing to the limbs growing out of its body and dies. Once the tree resumes consciousness and is inside, he spies Millie through the sliding glass door. She's watering her plants and seemingly unaware of the creature watching her from within. Behind her is a locked gate, and it's there the tree will find the lake he's been searching for. The sliding glass door is also locked, however, so the tree then infects the isopod. Once he does so, we catch a glimpse of a ghostly figure sitting on the couch. The ghost has the same necklace, dress, off-shoulder coat, and hairstyle as Millie's mother, so we can confirm that it is her and that she died prior to the events of the game, given her state of decomposition. The tree sends the isopod outside, where it interacts with the ghost of the shrew before dying as a white bird lands beside it. The bird then becomes the tree's next victim, and with it he is able to fly through a small heart-shaped window to Millie, who will then unlock the door to go inside. Before that, however, there are 2 letters between Millie and her mother. One is on the table by a teapot, and the other is in the bird's cage. If you read the letters in order, the first comes from Millie's mother and says, "Lovely Millie, my heart is heavy with worry ever since your departure. Although I have prayed fervently, I cannot help but be concerned. I miss you so. I am aware of your skepticism, but I have enclosed something in this letter that may aid you. Should my superstitions prove unfounded, they shall at the very least provide you with nourishment. May you attain all that you desire out there. Love, Mother." Included is a packet of seeds that have been opened. Millie's reply to her mother reads, "My dearest mother, I am writing to tell you that I have received your letter, and I pray you not be troubled for my sake, for I possess the means to fend for myself. The critters provide me with companionship and share with me their meals. Though I do cherish receiving your correspondence, your anxieties do weigh upon me. I should greatly appreciate letters with more cheerful words." The letter abruptly ends as the pen was dragged across the paper, leaving a streak of ink where Millie was going to sign her name. It seems that something interrupted her, and with the paper stained and wet in the corner, it looks as if she perhaps spilled her tea and became distracted or anxious as a result. Going back to the bird, once it finds Millie and she opens the door, the bird then dies mid-flight and falls to the ground. Millie is seen mourning over the bird, unaware of the tree about to enter her home. He does so, and she sees him. Startled, she runs back outside, and the tree follows. Millie can be found hiding next to her garden, and the tree claims its final victim. Controlling Millie's body, the tree sends her back inside to retrieve the gate key that is now hanging from the bird cage. Interacting with the bodies, the tree will apologize to them, saying he's sorry for their demise. If you send Millie back through the front door, the ghost of Millie's mother appears again, this time with the bird cage on her head and branches growing from her skull. She enters the house and vanishes. Use the key on the garden gate and Millie dies. Then the tree finally reaches the lake. He is overjoyed as the water flows through him, causing him to grow bigger and bigger until he is a grand tree. The souls of the shrew, the isopod, the bird, and Millie all sit along his branches as the game ends. I really enjoyed playing this and thinking through a few questions I had regarding the story. First was considering when the game took place. When reading the letters between Millie and her mother, it first feels as though the game might take place in a historical setting. Millie is writing with a fountain pen, the mother's letter was sealed with wax, and the greetings like "Lovely Millie" and "My dearest mother," as well as the language throughout, gives a mid-1800s vibe. However, if you look around the room, it gets a bit more complicated in determining the time period. There are items that look vintage, sure, like the teapot, Millie's clothes, and a stack of old books, but then there's a couple of band-aids. Band-aids were originally invented by Earl Dixon in 1920, but they weren't the kind we're used to seeing today. These were extra long strips that needed to be cut to fit the wound. The band-aids in Tree, however, look more like the everyday bandages we see now, which were in the stores by 1924. The sofa also looks like a 1920s Victorian Empire sofa like this one. The umbrella cane appears vintage, and then there's the photos. They're not black and white, but in color, which didn't become popular until the 1960s and 70s due to cost and practicality. It wasn't until 1935, when Kodak came out with their brands of colored film, did photography become more practical. Finally, the sliding glass doors really stood out to me as a modern-day touch. Introduced as elements of architecture in Europe and North America in the early 20th century and becoming more modern in the post-war era, my best guess at the time period for this game is late 20s through the 40s. Or maybe Millie is just living that cottagecore lifestyle. But moving on. We also know that Millie has moved away from her mother to accomplish something. She loves animals, having a pet bird, and a giant isopod. The scale of the crustacean may just be for an extra eerie effect, but maybe Millie wanted to be a part of nature and find ways to make creatures larger to protect themselves, or maybe to serve another purpose. Isopods like the roly-poly or pillbug are fairly tiny and pretty harmless, but they're also scavengers, mainly eating decaying plant matter and other decomposing material. Interestingly, pillbugs will also sometimes eat decomposing flesh. The mother's ghostly figure is skeletal, while the ghost of the other characters are not, and it makes me wonder if perhaps the isopod was responsible for her grisly appearance. Then again, the last time we see the ghost, she has the same branches growing out of her head as the others who were killed by the tree, yet her soul doesn't join them once the tree is fully grown. So what happened to her? If you recall, Millie's mother sent her a packet of seeds within her letter. At first glance, I thought they were ivy leaves, but the letter talks about the mother's superstitions, saying the plant would be of use to Millie in that regard, but if nothing else, she would at least be able to eat them. So ivy is out. I also noticed the plant has tiny thorns or brambles along the vines, and that combined with the 3 points on the leaves, and it's starting to look more like pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin vines are prickly, and the Irish believe that pumpkins could be used to ward ghosts from your door when carving a face into them and lighting them, hence our Halloween jack-o'-lanterns. So Millie's mother sent her pumpkin seeds in hopes she would grow them and ward off evil spirits and ghosts because she had a bad feeling that harm would befall her daughter. Her suspicions would be proven correct, but what Millie's mother failed to realize was that her own life would also be in jeopardy. This is because the tree's first victim was her. Well, maybe not this tree, but its parent. Hear me out. Wherever she lives, the tree was there, using Millie's mother to try and find a nearby water source. Maybe she felt his presence growing and looming over her long before he was strong enough to attack her, hence her worries for Millie. However, once the tree realized water was scarce in their location, it had to ensure the survival, if not of itself, at least of its offspring. Knowing that it can control beings, making them do all sorts of things, it would have been easy enough for it to wait until Millie's mother had written the letter, then taking over her body, tore open the seed packet and placed a tree seed along with the pumpkin seeds before mailing it to Millie. Millie's mother died, and the original tree subsequently with her, dying of thirst. But the seed had a new chance. When Millie opened the letter, she planted the pumpkin seeds in the garden, but she also planted the strange, unidentifiable seed in front of her home. The hole we see at the beginning of the game is the place the seed was planted, then grew at a rapid pace, awaking it once it became thirsty. The mother's ghost might have lingered with Millie, trying to warn her of the impending doom, and maybe that was what truly startled Millie when writing her letter, later allowing herself to believe that maybe her mother's fears have bled into her own sanity, making her see things. The pumpkins were not ready for harvest, so we don't see a carved pumpkin outside the cottage yet, meaning ghost and evil could linger. This is also why the mother's ghost doesn't join Millie in the tree, because this particular tree isn't the one who killed her. The truth of the mother's fate is revealed at the end when we see the branches growing through her and a bird cage over her head, almost as if she is the one that has trapped them all in their fate like a cage, all for wanting to protect Millie from evil. Their relationship may have been strained, causing Millie to feel trapped like a bird, and though leaving made her feel free, she was ultimately still trapped by her mother vicariously through her fears. What the tree itself actually is a bit mysterious. It seems to be an amalgamation of different real-life plants and fungi, some fantastical inspiration with the developer's own unique twist. We know it latches onto people and animals, controls them, then kills them like a parasitic fungi that inspired the works of other fiction like The Last of Us. But the tree itself is sentient too, able to walk and choose its victims based on its needs. Its ability to walk made me think of the walking palms of the rainforest that are said to grow new roots in the direction they need to travel, then letting the adjacent roots die off to allow them to move up to 20 meters or 65.6 feet yearly. But the tree obviously is far more powerful than cordyceps and walks further than the walking palms in 10 minutes than they could ever dream of reaching within a year. Then there's the face of the tree, which reminds me of the no-face mask from the Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away. No-face, or kaonashi as it's known in Japan, is what they call a yokai, which are supernatural entities and spirits. The kaonashi is a type of yokai known as nopperabo, which are faceless entities that usually take a human shape to try and attract people and cause fear or some other mischievous acts. With the tree's almost human-like face, tree trunks for legs, and branches for arms, it makes it seem like whatever this creature is, it too is mimicking humans to get what it wants. Regardless, the contradiction of a tree, something that essentially gives us life via air and resources, as an antagonistic force ironically killing nature itself and a girl that seems to love nature, is really interesting. Not to mention it craved water, but maybe it knew that it was also obtaining some of the water it needed from the blood of its victims, which is 51% water. But I want to know what you think. What really happened to Millie's mother? What did you notice in the game? And what could the tree creature really be? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Here's another video about a creepy plant. Turn on those notifications, and as always, thanks for watching.